We are live on YouTube and Facebook. And we are live on Instagram or Rammer. A little bit of a chaotic start here. I just jumped off of a meeting and we had to get everything set up, and Rigel's been crying for Crystal. So we're here now, though. Sorry for being a little bit late. Let's let everybody jump on, give them a little bit of time here. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Today we're talking about reverse dieting.
Reverse dieting. Yes, we are going to start off the conversation with the topic of reverse dieting, something that I find very important, something that is very important, and something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. So, do you have anything to add before I dive into?
I'll just let you go ahead, and then if I have little things to put in there, I will. But I feel like you're going to hit it.
Hit it. All right. So reverse dieting is something that is incredibly important, whether you're a competitor or not. So I am currently in the latter phases of my reverse diet post-competition prep, but a lot of people would benefit from reverse dieting even if they are not a competitor. So reverse dieting is basically defined as the reverse of dieting. When you think of dieting, you're typically dropping your caloric intake, losing body fat, leaning down, limiting your intake. The reverse of that is increasing the food you're consuming, ramping up your caloric intake, putting on some body fat as opposed to dropping body fat. Now, for me as a competitor, having just gone through a 33-week competition prep and getting down to 3.9% body fat and about 1,800 calories, that's obviously not sustainable. So if I was to go from that extreme to just eating ad nauseum, eating a ton of food, I would put on a lot of excessive body fat, because when you lean out for that long, when you drop your calories that much, when you get that lean, your metabolism down regulates. So your maintenance intake is no longer what it was at the onset of a fat loss phase. So you have to strategically reverse out of that deficit and low body fat in a healthy, sustainable manner so that you can return to some degree of normalcy and sustainability. Now, where this is applicable for people that are not competitors is that so many people chronically undereat anyways in an attempt to lose body fat that they never eat enough, never give their hormones and their metabolism time in a strategic surplus. So their metabolism is pretty much chronically down regulated as a result, similar to if they had gone through a competition prep and got incredibly lean and dieted down acutely like that. So a lot of people come to me that want to lose body fat, work with me as a coaching client, but they've been chronically restricting for the last 10 years of their life. The first thing that we're going to do is likely put them through a reverse diet, increase their intake, let their metabolism upregulate, and let them eat more food. And sometimes that comes with a temporary increase in body fat. Not always, but sometimes. But when you do that and you have that period of time eating at a surplus, when they do transition into a strategic fat loss phase in the future, their body is much, much more responsive to it because they went through that period of reverse dieting.
I'm going to interject and ask the common questions as you're hitting certain parts of this. Is that okay? Or should I wait till you're completely done?
You can interject.
Okay, so common questions with this part. You're like, okay, if I've been chronically under eating for years or even 1 year, how long should I remain at a surplus/maintenance?
All right, so when I'm dieting, like I said, I spent 33 weeks dieting. So I'm going to spend the next 2+ years in a building phase at a surplus intake. Now, a good rule of thumb is if you're going through a strategic cutting and building phase, as I recommend people do, whether you're competing or not, then a good rule of thumb is have a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 times as much time spent at maintenance or surplus than spent in a deficit. Now, if you've been chronically under eating for the last 15 years of your life, most people aren't going to take 3 times that before they go into a fat loss phase. However, metabolism is incredibly adaptable. I recommend no less than 6 months, but generally speaking, people would benefit from far more than that, especially if you're trying to build muscle. It takes time to build muscle. especially if you're natural or if you're older or if you're a seasoned athlete. And you can't really build a substantial amount of lean tissue in just a few months, which is why I'm going to take the next few years off of competing so that I can let my metabolism upregulate, let my hormones restabilize, build more lean tissue before I transition into a cutting phase in the future. So it's going to be dependent upon the individual, but no less than 6 months, the more the merrier. There's a flip side though. You don't want to, a reverse diet is not just and a bulk is not just a, uncalculated, eat as much as you can scenario, because like I said, you put on unnecessary body fat. And there is certainly a point of diminishing returns when it comes to body fat, because just as people chronically undereat, there is certainly a demographic of people that are chronically overeating.
Mm-hmm.
And the body benefits, the metabolism benefits from having periods in a deficit and periods in a surplus. There is a yin yang relationship that takes place there.
Should I keep hitting you with questions, or you want to just like go
I
for
mean, you
it?
can keep hitting me.
All right. So when I'm reverse dieting, how do I know? His water's out. How would I know how much fat versus protein to eat in a reverse?
It's kind of a hard question. 'Cause it's
I
gonna be
know.
very
But
dependent.
everyone always asks us these questions. So like just explain it, that it's hard to explain. Like they are gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing in a reverse is to let things restabilize. So if you're not consuming ample dietary fat, your hormones are going to be jacked up. If you're not consuming ample protein, then you're not going to be able to build a muscle as you transition into a building phase.
What should I say? Maybe I should say if they've been chronically under eating for a while, what should their minimum protein intake be, you think?
A good generic rule of thumb with protein is 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal weight or lean mass. That's a good general rule of thumb on the conservative end.
I usually say for like my female clients, I like to see them all above 100 grams at the minimum, which I have so many people coming to me that are eating like 50 or 60 grams of protein. So
Yeah.
if you're eating that low, you should definitely aim for like 100.
Yeah, and I mean, like if you're basing it 1 gram of protein per pound of lean mass, most
That's gonna be
people's
more.
lean mass is not going to be less than 100 anyways.
Right.
And like there's times where I'll do really high protein. Like this week, I'm doing really high protein. I'm doing like 320 grams of protein this week, which I don't need that much protein, but I'm just kind of doing some experiments. So sometimes I do things that I don't necessarily recommend. What do you want, buddy?
You want me to hit the next question?
Sure. You want down?
All right,
Okay.
reverse diet. When do I know? How do I know when to stop increasing my calories?
When you start putting on more body fat relative to increases in lean tissue. So like if you're coming out of a deficit and you're starting to prioritize weight training and building lean tissue, you should start to experience more energy in the gym, better recovery, increasing lifts, so more progressive overload, the ability to be more intense with your training. When you move into the slight surplus range, that will be the case. When you go beyond that and you are in excessive surplus, then you won't really experience a correlative increase in gym performance relative to the amount of unnecessary body fat you are accumulating. If you're putting on a little bit of body fat, but you're seeing pretty significant improvements in the gym, then keep pushing the calories. If you're starting to see those performance metrics level off, yet your scale weight continues to increase and you're noticing more body fat via what you're seeing in the mirror, DEXA, calipers, in-body test, then it's likely the point where you're just consuming, a big enough of a surplus that you're not seeing a corresponding increase in gym performance, and you're starting to put on excessive body fat at that point. So you could scale things back and kind of hold stable for a bit before increasing further.
How about, should I try to burn as many calories as I'm eating by the end of this, or while I'm reverse dieting? Meaning also like should I do extra cardio and things like that too?
No. So the point of a reverse diet and a slight build is to actually be in somewhat of a caloric surplus. And if you're trying to offset that increase in calories by doing additional cardio, then you're defeating the purpose. So no, I do not recommend doing additional excessive cardio. Now, if you're not cardiovascularly healthy to begin with, then make sure you have a good healthy baseline. But don't
Or
try
if you
and
enjoy doing cardio.
but don't try and offset the point of being in a slight surplus by doing additional cardio, which would make that impossible.
And did I forget anything else? It's so hard. I feel like this is such a common topic that I want to make sure that we hit good stuff.
We can talk about reverse dieting all day long. This is something that I talk about a lot, but it's not really well known or discussed because everybody wants to talk about how much weight they're losing, how much leaner they've gotten, how much more visible their abs are. But there's a flip side to that coin, and that's equally as important, if not more so, because more people are spending more time in a maintenance or surplus, ideally, than they are in a deficit. So
let's talk about the mental part of reverse dieting. Like, how do you get over the mental part of reverse dieting and then staying at a surplus for a period of time when you've been chronically under eating or you've been told that to eat less calories?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard when you've conditioned your mind to reward yourself when you see the scale weight drop, when you see yourself getting leaner. It's hard to embrace seeing that scale weight increase and seeing less definition. That's why it's important to have other metrics of progress outside of scale weight and definition. Like, be excited about having better hormone levels, having better performance markers in the gym. Be excited about seeing the weight on the bar that you're pushing or pulling in the gym increase more so than the weight you're seeing on the bathroom scale. So that would be key for sure. And then get routine lab work done. Like, if you've been chronically under eating, you're going to have some wonky metrics from a lab panel standpoint. So if you're starting to eat at a healthy level, ample nutrition, you should see those markers improve, and you can get excited about that as well.
I also would say, if you are the type of person who gets triggered by the scale, when you are at a maintenance or surplus or whatever, or you're reverse dieting, even try and get those like a DEXA scan, an InBody, something like that, so you know that you're keeping an eye on your weight and stuff. But at the same time, a good trick for some people is going to be to
just drink that.
Not jump on the scale and actually base things on your workouts. Has your intensity gone up? Has your volume gone up? Are your lifts increasing, etc.? How do you feel about the way that you look? Do you feel like you look awesome? Do you feel like you're eating more, you're lifting more, and now you're just freaking jacked? A lot of the teasing that goes on in your brain is your reliance on the scale or that number, what it looks like. And if you actually stop weighing yourself for a hot second, you might actually feel better about the way that you look, and you might feel better in your skin during this period of time than if you were to keep weighing yourself and seeing the same weight or seeing it increase a pound, but then going back down a pound or whatever. And I'm not saying use this as a crutch, but if you need this for a short period of time, make calculated decisions on what your macros and stuff are going to be. Don't just go eat junk and then not weigh yourself, because that's just not smart. But I do find that people who take a break from the scale for a period of time and just go bust their butts in the gym and use that extra energy that you're getting in, they usually end up feeling better about themselves and having a better experience with a reverse diet or a surplus. So there's that too.
Yes. It's super important. People need to be doing it.
Okay. I'm going to hit some questions because this is a common topic. So
TM says, hi, what's up, TM? Do you follow Cole Robinson Steak Diet? Talks about keto a lot recently. Also brings you up sometimes. The same comment was made last week. I need to check out Cole Robinson stuff, I guess.
So.
It's so hard to reverse diet and not force feed. That's what keto is so good. Fats make me so full and satiated. Yes, fats do make one full and satiated. There's this big debate right now about satiety, and I was tagged on Twitter a little bit from it.
I do not do Twitter for a reason.
But yeah, it's interesting.
Well, it's hard because there are so many people out there that are like, eat to satiety. But for some people, that's 400 calories because they've downregulated their metabolism. You need more calories than 400 calories, you know?
Yeah, and it's kind of
Which is-
counterintuitive, but a lot of people that are chronically undereaten, if they start eating more, there's a lag effect. But if they start eating more, they'll actually experience an increase in
Yes.
hunger as their metabolism upregulates.
Yep. This one says, oh goodness, yes, let's talk about reverse dieting.
Miriam says, "Hey guys, what's up, Miriam? How you
Hey,
doing?
Miriam.
Hey, Rigel.
Looking good, my man.
Thank you. Susan says, I am for 100 grams as my minimum daily protein, but I am stuck at a weight of about 25 pounds too high for over a year. At 60 years old, should I cut fat to lose weight?" That's a whole other conversation in itself. The whole fat as a lever approach, I don't really, it's an oversimplified view in my opinion. I don't know what your calories are. I don't know what your lean tissue is. But the answer is not just to default to cutting dietary fat if you're trying to lose fat. Like there may be times where you need to cut dietary fat for sure, but there's a lot more pieces to the equation. So I don't want to just give a blanket statement there, but not necessarily.
What's good, savages?
Thank you for
Haha, do
talking
not
about these
look
side of things.
awesome. Haha, do not look awesome. I think that was in regards to me saying if you are doing the reverse diet and you're like, I look freaking awesome. Quit doing that.
You bet. We're happy to talk about this side of things, Miriam. I am very petite. Should 100 grams of protein still be a minimum? I don't really recommend like just that. Like I get what you're saying there.
It was like more of a, most people are under eating protein. And if you have a goal of about 100 grams of protein, that's probably going to be pretty good as a, I would say, minimum. I think even petite people should probably go for that as a pretty good goal. I mean,
yeah,
some
but
people
for me,
say
I would be way too low if I was only eating 100 grams of protein.
Right, but I said that was as a minimum for females. Because even if you go for like 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, there's going to be very few people that are under 100 pounds. If you're going for under 1 gram of protein per every 1 pound of lean mass, it's going to be a little bit higher than that for a lot of women, but it's a benefit to have it a little bit higher. And for some, it's going to be too low. That's why I say like it should be a minimum, but everything is individualized. So don't just like take my 100 grams of protein, like run with it. Everything should be individualized. You should try to push as much protein as you can. And if for some people it's
within reason, some people push it too high and it's not going to be optimal in that regard.
That's why you have to, make it personalized to you. But I think that's a pretty safe bet for people who are under consuming protein.
Yes.
To like have a first goal,
I may need to get an appointment with you to discuss this with you. Happy to discuss it with you. I'm not trying to just like push people to my coaching by any means. I just want to make sure that I'm not putting out blanket statements because oftentimes people say, hey, look, if you have body fat to lose, simply cut dietary fat. And that may not be the case.
Kevin said, Esty said, hi, Rigel.
What's up, Kev Boat? How you doing, man?
Say hi.
Got it. We'll do 100 grams. Sounds doable. Yeah, that should be totally doable for anybody. I mean, there's so many ways to get protein in. People that have a hard time getting 100 grams because they can't find foods to eat to hit it, that's just not good. There's so many ways to get protein in for sure. Look at the ingredients on the foods you're consuming and eat real foods. What else we got? I think I got all the questions here on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, I think I got them over here. Rigel is so cute. Thank you. He is the best. All right, we got explain why some folk can eat 2,800 calories while others that are at 2,100 calories and be active all day, but still not have the same metabolism of someone who can eat 28. I am talking about women.
So metabolism is... There's not really a black and white clear-cut answer to metabolism because you could take someone with the exact same stats as me, like same height, same age, same gender, similar muscle density. And if you were to plug that into a calculator, their metabolism should be the same as mine. However, that may not always be the case. Genetics do play a factor. But also, I mean, there's so many things that like your activity trackers do not accurately track the calories that you're burning. Okay. The brain burns a ton of calories. I'm consuming a lot of calories right now. My average intake is almost at 4,000 calories a day. And I just got done recording a podcast with a competitor with very similar stats to me. I competed with him at Worlds, and he's maintaining his weight at around 2,500, 2,800 calories a day. So I'm literally more than 1,000 calories in him, maintaining my weight as well.
Okay, so she said she's specifically talking about women. So I'm going to talk on this subject a little bit. I was one of those that, can you want to hold him for a sec? I was one of those that was eating.
What's the matter, buddy?
I have it right here. Look.
That face, though.
I know. Goodness gracious. It's right here.
You got to breathe,
Golly
buddy.
gee.
Breathe.
Okay, so I was one of those at one point that was eating 1,600 calories, and I was like, what in the world? There's no way people eat that much. And now I'm one of those people that eats a ton of food. But it took me time to get there as well. It took me time learning what foods responded well to my body. It took me figuring out and slowly, we don't have one right now. Slowly increasing over time. It took me doing cuts and building seasons. It's taken building lean mass. So if you're the same as someone else, you need to take into consideration, Rigel, that's enough. We don't have one. Taking into consideration their hormones, their thyroid, their their cycle. Every person's cycle is even different. Like there's those 4 phases, but the amount of hormones you produce of each hormone during those times are different than the next person. Someone else might have higher testosterone than you. They might have more lean mass than you. Their workouts might be more intense than you, even if you have the same stats. There's so much that goes into it, and that's why I try not to compare one person to the next, because that's not fair to the individual in that period of time. And it's not about, oh, Crystal's eating 3,000 calories a day. I'm only eating 2,100 calories a day. How do I get to be like that? It's not about like, I want a goal of eating 3,000 calories a day. It's like, what does my body need to meet the goals I have right now? And it may not be you eating 3,000 calories a day. It may be you eating 21 a day. And then maybe over time, challenging that. Can I eat more? But we don't have to eat gluttonously. Gluttonously? Is that even a word?
Sounds like a word.
In order to get to our goals. We want to eat to where our body needs it. So don't try to compare, lean mass, fat mass, hormones, this and that, because you will never be the same exact as your next door neighbor. You will never be the same as the next person. So just keep that in mind. You're on your own road. You're on your own journey. The goal is not to eat more and more and more and more and more food. The goal is to eat the proper amount of food for your body. Does that make sense?
Yes. I would say people should eat as much food as they can while their body is responding positively.
Right.
Because the more you can eat, if your body's responding positively, the more caloric runway you'll have to manipulate when you do transition to a fat loss phase in the future.
Thank you for addressing hormones, genetics, and lean mass. What are your thoughts on doing more protein-sparing fasts to improve body composition? There are some keto influencers that use this method weekly.
I do not recommend it. Do not do it. And not a fan of it. If protein-sparing fast is defined as incredibly low dietary fat, which is typically what it's defined as, like we're talking sub 30 grams of fat, that's just not optimal.
Yeah. I've not really done protein sparing myself, so I can't be like, I felt terrible or I felt great or whatever. But if I'm going to do a fast, I'm going to just do a fast. I'm not going to mess around with.
And don't overdo fast. Like fasting too frequently or too long is not good either.
But there's a lot of influencers out there doing all different kinds of things. So take what is out there. Don't take our word for it. Don't take Joe Blow's word for it. Take the information, take the actual science, figure out if that's a stressor that you want to put your body through, because it is a stressor, and maybe try it. Do you like it? Does your body respond well? How are your labs looking after a month of trying, or a couple months of trying it? And see what the results are. Don't just take someone's word for it because so-and-so lost 100 pounds overnight. It may not work for you. You may feel like trash. You may feel great. It really depends, but don't just take people's words for it, especially on social media, because it's like a freaking mosh pit out there. Like, there's just, everyone's doing something, and one person's seeing someone else doing it, and they're getting views over here, so they're like, oh, I'll try it too and see if I can get some views too. You know, it's just, things come in waves.
All right.
Ride out the waves
Let me get some of these
and
questions
see what
knocked out.
settles.
TM, I am petite 2 at 5'0" and regularly eat 120, 135-ish grams of protein, so you can do it. Thank you. Do you eat more than 2 meals a day? I can if I need to. I
Did you
tend to
wanna-
eat
oh.
60 grams per meal. It basically works out to 1 pound of beef and a stick of butter per day. I'm not saying that's all I eat, but that's the base.
I like it.
I'm going through these. They're responding to each
Yeah,
other.
they're
Love the
talking to each
engagement.
other. Yeah.
Thank you. You bet. Even twins are not the same. Yes, very true.
Exactly. You would know.
My suggestion at TM is to figure out what your protein and fat is needed by volume, then base meals around that. This may require math. There is some math involved in macro manipulation for sure.
Yep.
Awesome. We got a little conversation going on the side here. I like it. I like it.
That
I
is
like
usually
it.
like, okay, I do have people that are like, it is so hard to get like protein in. Like, how do you get this much protein in? And that's exactly what I do, is say, okay, the protein that your goal is 1 pound of, 90-10 ground beef. So start there. Base your meal off of that. If you want to do a taco bowl, then put some salsa, some sour cream, some guacamole, just like mix it up. If you want to do a burger, then add some pickles and some mustard and some mayo and whatever to a bowl, and like make that a thing, or whatever, but pick the protein, because they say, I'm just so full, I don't know how to get the protein. It's like, eat the protein first. Choose the protein first.
And
and
choose a
then
protein
add-
that has fat in it. Like,
Yeah.
don't make like lean tuna in water the base of your protein, because then you're gonna have a
Yeah.
hard time getting the fat in. Like, find foods that are good, healthy base for your macros at baseline.
Yeah. But, try to aim for that first, and then only add what you think you can actually eat on top of that, if that makes sense.
MC says, what is your percentage of protein to fat ratio? Depends where I'm at in a cutting phase or reverse or building phase, but a good general hangout spot for me and for most people is around about 70% of calories coming from fat, which winds up being about a 1-to-1 ratio of protein grams to fat grams. So that's a pretty good way to start, and then you can titrate up or down from there. All this food talk's making me hungry.
Hungry.
All right, y'all. That is a wrap on the live. We talked about reverse dieting. We got some exciting things in the pipeline, one of which may be a brick launch this weekend. So keep an eye on y'all's emails. Definitely excited about that. We've got some other things in the pipeline too, but I don't want to tease too much here. So what's the topic for the next live?
We have a few of them. We can do keto and breastfeeding. We can do time management.
Let's do keto and breastfeeding. That way you can kind of lead that one.
Okay.
We haven't done that one before.
Keto and breastfeeding. Nope.
All right, keto and breastfeeding for next week's topic. All right, y'all. Much love to you. I'm gonna get this munchkin some food and get some work done. So we will talk to y'all next time. Ta-ta for now.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.